entrepreneurs? Jason Walker here, Keeping It Simple podcast. Want to talk to my folks that are in startup stage or idea stage businesses, or you're looking to launch a business. I got a question for you. I always like to ask questions because I'm a former facilitator, teacher, whatever. But I got a question for you. Does your product or service sell? Really? Does it really sell? So, what I mean by that, have you validated your idea or have you validated your product or service with customers, real live paying customers? Not the folks that say, oh, we'll just use, I always like to use food because I like to eat, but I always like to use food examples, right? You know, you got somebody in your family or you know someone that can cook. Man, they're an amazing cook, right? You know, they cook whatever, they bake whatever, things like that. And everybody's telling you should go into business. You should go into business. And people will love your food. They'll love your cakes. They'll love your pies. But before they do that, if any of you are in that position right now, before you do that, validate that people will buy your product or service. And one of the top 5 reasons that small businesses go out of business is that there's no demand for their product or service. Right? It's in the top 5. The number one reason actually they run out of money. But the number, I think it's number 2 or 3, is that they run out, they don't have a demand for their product or service. So get out there and validate whether or not your product or service will sell to people, to customers. I don't care whether you do a pop-up, you do a farmer's market, you do a test run, or if you're doing e-commerce, you do a test run on the internet. There's plenty of sites and tools that'll let you put up a quick page, an e-commerce page, and validate whether or not people will buy your product or service. But as I did in my other podcast, it always comes back to marketing. Although you're getting out there and letting people know that, and testing to see whether or not you can sell your product or service to your ideal customer, I'm always going to say that on the Keeping It Simple podcast, that is key. The customer is key, because if no one's buying your product, you're not selling, right? So get out there on my idea stage. We say, hey, I want to make jewelry. I want to clean offices. I want to sell stuff on the internet or whatever it is. Well, I don't care where you are. Validate that people will buy your product or service at the price you need to sell it at to make a profit. So, entrepreneurs, business owners, I don't care if you already have a business and you say, hey, I want to launch a new product or launch a new service, right? Make sure you test and validate before you spend all the money on, really spending money on getting your business set up and things like that. Make sure that you have people that are willing to pay for your product or service. And that'll do 2 things, 1 or 2 things that will kind of reinforce that, hey, I got a great idea, it's selling, people are buying, people are asking me, hey, when are you going to have your next batch or your next thing, or do you have any more items for sale? Or 2 is going to show you that, hey, I may need to pivot a little bit, or I may need to do something different, or maybe I'm talking to the wrong people. I'm not talking to my ideal customer. So that you won't have to waste so much time, so much energy, and more importantly, a lot of money before, without having the knowledge that you need that your product or service will sell. We've all seen the business that opens with great fanfare and things like that. And a couple of months later, you see they're closed and they're out of business. It's because they didn't do their homework and find out whether or not the product or service will sell. And maybe I'll talk about this in another podcast about areas and locations and things like that. But you have to make sure that people will buy your product from you, and more importantly, like God, I said, sell, that you can sell your product or service to them, right? Because that's key, that's critical, because I don't want you launching a business, buying a building, getting all this inventory, doing all of this stuff without validating, or expanding your business without validating whether or not what you want to do people will buy it, and you can sell it at a profit margin and have a nice profit margin. So all my idea stage entrepreneurs or my entrepreneurs just are getting ready to start out, make sure you validate whether or not your product will sell to the people you want to sell it to. In the technology world, they call it getting traction, right? Or proof of sales or things like that. So come on, entrepreneurs, come on, business owners, do your thing, get out there and validate your product or service and that it will sell before you make a huge investment in time and money. Again, Jason Walker, keeping it simple. We'll chat soon. Hey, entrepreneur.